They sent me to a psych farm. Hello, I am a male, 25 years old. I'd like to tell you a story about a place I was in about a year ago. It was a psych rehab. But on a farm. Now, I'd been to other psych institutions before. I had a good couple years where I was almost always at some psych hospital or treatment center. See, you hit a bit of a rough patch when becoming God is confused with having bipolar disorder, joke. But anyways, this 20-person psych ward on a farm was different than the other places I had been carted around to. Why? Well, for one, it cost $15,000 a month, thanks Mom and Dad, and for two, it was by far the worst place I had ever been. I showed up on my first weekend and there was a guy running around outside yelling he was Jesus Christ. The same guy, when approached by one of the staff members who was black, yelled, "Shut up you stupid, N-word." He left strapped in an ambulance about an hour later. He wasn't hurt, just crazy. Geez, okay, weird start right? I promise it's weird all around. The place was a hippie camp. The whole idea was that it was a work program that helps you work on your mental health by connecting with nature, enjoying animals, working in the kitchen, chopping wood, weaving scarves, being with other people who are on so much medication they can't follow a train of thought, and being herded around and smiled at like you're a three-legged dog by the 19-year-old staff members who drove there from across the country to get paid minimum wage to sleep with each other on the job. So anyways, $15K a month, maybe it'll help me get some direction in life. After a couple-year meltdown and not finishing school, I could really use that. No one that I used to know is in the position I'm in, but I'm sure the place will help me get some direction in no time. After all, this is the last psych facility I will ever go to. Wrongy. This farm was the last psych facility I went to, but it's also a place I never needed to go. Example. The therapist at this fun farm rehab in Vermont was a real hoot. Every session I would make a case for why it was time for me to leave the weird little cult. She would say things like, "Oh, you don't want to leave, where would you go?" Or, "You still have some work to do, we'll talk about it next time." It went something like this, many times. Why do you want to leave? It's not helping me, it was a mistake for me to come. I really just don't think I need it. But the community is wonderful. You have friends here. I don't know, I think if I left I would find friends other places too. You won't be able to make friends anywhere else. The last quote is word for word. A licensed therapist told me that. Not that it matters too much, but she weighed 450 pounds and always called herself a fat ass, as if that would solve her problem. Whatever. The point is, she was amusingly incompetent and I do not have one memory of a productive conversation with her. If she got paid more than $1 an hour it was a crime. She probably only learned her numbers in high school to be able to use the microwave. Now that I'm rereading this, I can see her point. There was this girl who worked there, we'll call her Poopy. I was nothing but kind to Poopy, even stuck up for her when other patients would speak ill of her behind her back, because of her choice to transition to a girl. I made a joke one time about a different staff member I was friendly with, teased her while smiling about how she must have thought the phone call she stood up to take was more important than our game of Uno. We both laughed, things were normal. Poopy was not involved. But Poopy, who had been listening from across the room, approached me immediately and asked to speak with me in an office, drilled me about how what I said was inappropriate. When I stood my ground, she makes an appointment with both my therapist and I, informs my team, the ones deciding my fate here, about what happened and puts it in my notes. It's a little thing, but it's representative of the culture at some of these places. Truly terrible, so obnoxiously over-censored that the attitude and mental well-being needed to function in the real world is seen as over the top and intentionally undermining by these sad little losers who try to cultivate what they call a safe welcoming environment. Anyways, I call my parents. Constantly, get me out of here. Guys, I shouldn't have chosen to come here. Mom, I'm in the middle of the woods in Vermont. These people are actually weird and I have no money and no credit I need out of this camp. Their argument was, no, because we're getting word from the professionals there that you're causing trouble and you're not ready. You need to keep working, you're stranded. So, my dumbfuck parents, sorry mom and dad, are taking the word of the professionals at this daycare dressed as a transformational mental health experience. And what do the professionals want? Well, the place is a non-profit, but it's still somehow failing because no one's fucking coming here, so of course, they want to fill the beds. Of course they want me to stay. That's $15,000 more a month for them. So I stayed. But as I stayed longer and longer and found out how long others had been there for, it made even more sense. These professionals, like my oh-so-lovely therapist, are claiming they are helping people. But they are grooming people to be unable to help themselves, scolding them for speaking out, and in many cases, forcing people to stay long after necessary, aware that in doing so, the patients become comfortable, and that they become or remain scared of the real world. It was almost unheard of that someone left within 6 months, and many had been there for years. Several stayed until their parents simply could not afford it anymore. I do not understand how these places stay in business. Are people really that fucking stupid? I know the answer is yes because I initially fell for it, and my parents continued to do so months after, even with the focal point of the entire operation, me, absolutely cranking out reasons why the place was a scam. I understand that these places are necessary on paper for those who truly are grinding away at existence. But they aren't necessary for everyone. And this one in Vermont specifically is without a doubt committing malpractice along with gaslighting patients and exploiting desperate families. Anyways, I was there for 4 months, that was a year ago. I pushed and was able to out-talk the drooling degenerates who had brainwashed my family, got my own thing going and am taking care of myself. I'm now living with a roommate, who I met there, all the way across the big ol' United States in Dallas. Making friends, making money, planning out my life, getting happier. All no thanks to the mental health industry scams that seem to be so common today.